A desperate surgeon once saved countless lives with a simple party trick. In the 1700s, a terrifying sickness stalked the high seas, killing more sailors than enemy cannons or violent storms. This disease was scurvy, a mysterious plague that baffled the greatest medical minds of the age. They tried everything, from blaming foul air to prescribing useless remedies, while men continued to suffer and die. Yet the cure was not found in a grand laboratory, but during a remarkable gathering at sea, orchestrated by a naval surgeon named James Lind. This is the story of how a chance experiment, conducted almost like a social event, unveiled a life-saving secret hiding in plain sight and forever changed the world. You will learn exactly how a handful of fruit defeated one of history's deadliest diseases. Why did it take decades for the world to accept a truth so simple and so obvious? What does this story of overlooked solutions teach us about the problems we face today? The ship's surgeon opened a man's mouth to reveal a sight of pure horror. Gums swollen and black, bled freely at the slightest touch, teeth loosened from their sockets, rattled with every shallow breath. This was not the result of battle, but of a far more insidious enemy. Scurvy did not kill quickly. It dismantled a person piece by piece. Old wounds, scars from battles fought years ago, would suddenly and mysteriously split open, as if the body itself was coming unglued. The strongest sailors were reduced to a state of profound lethargy, their bodies aching with a deep bone weariness that no amount of rest could cure. They would lie in their hammocks, surrounded by the very smell of death, which was, in fact, the smell of their own bodies decaying while they were still alive. During the great age of exploration, this disease was the single greatest killer on the high seas. It crippled entire navies and halted voyages of discovery that had cost a king's ransom. More sailors died from scurvy than from enemy cannons, shipwrecks, and all other diseases combined. You have to picture a vast three-masted ship, a magnificent feat of engineering, drifting as a ghost ship because its crew was too weak to raise a sail. The ocean, a highway to new worlds, became a floating graveyard because of this mysterious plague, and the theories for its cause were as plentiful as they were useless. The greatest medical minds of the era blamed bad air, or the damp, cold conditions of life at sea. Some captains even declared it a form of laziness, a moral failing that required punishment rather than medicine. So the treatments were not just ineffective, they were often actively harmful. Surgeons would prescribe vile tonics or bleed their patients, further weakening men who were already dying from a lack of some essential substance they could not name. The desperation for a real solution was absolute. Every nation with a navy was searching for an answer, but they were all looking in the wrong places, blinded by centuries of medical dogma and misunderstanding. The cure was not complex, but it was hiding in the most simple of places, waiting for one man to see past the superstition and conduct a simple yet brilliant test. Into this fog of medical confusion sailed James Lind, a Scottish surgeon whose mind worked differently from his peers. While others saw a moral failing or a foul vapor, Lind saw a pattern. He served aboard the British naval ship the Salisbury in the spring of 1747, a man surrounded by the same suffering but armed with a rare quality, a belief in observation over tradition. The ship was its own world, a floating wooden city filled with the constant sounds of creaking timber and flapping sails, the air thick with the scent of salt and tar. And in this confined space, Lind watched healthy men slowly fall apart. He noted their diet, a monotonous routine of hardtack biscuits and salted meat, utterly devoid of anything fresh. It was this observation that sparked a revolutionary idea. What if the cause was not something present, but something absent? What if the cure was not a medicine to be added, but a nutrient to be restored? He decided to run a test, but this was no laboratory experiment. It was a practical trial born of necessity, conducted right there on the rolling deck and in the dimly lit sickbay. He selected 12 sailors, all suffering from the same brutal stage of scurvy, and he housed them together. Their conditions were kept as identical as possible, same food, same quarters. Then he introduced one single variable. He divided the men into 6 pairs, and each day, beyond their standard rations, each pair received a different supplement. It was a menu of the era's most popular supposed cures. One pair drank cider, another swallowed vinegar, a common remedy believed to purify the body. A third group gargled and drank seawater. Others were given a spicy paste or a portion of barley water, but the final pair received something entirely different: 2 oranges and 1 lemon every single day. The genius of Lin's approach was not just in the test, but in the control. By having multiple groups trying different remedies at the same time, he created a direct comparison. He was, in essence, pitting the world's best guesses against each other to see which one truly worked. This concept of a controlled experiment was breathtakingly advanced for its time. The results were stark, and they arrived with stunning speed. The men drinking cider showed a slight improvement, but the pair receiving the citrus fruits, they were the only ones who experienced a true miracle. Within just 6 days, they were not merely feeling better, they were nearly ready for duty. Their energy returned, their wounds began to heal, their gums lost their blackened hue. While the other 10 men continued to languish, these 2 were on their feet, a living testament to a truth that had been hiding in plain sight all along. The cure for the sea's deadliest plague was not a complex chemical or a brutal procedure. It was simply a piece of fruit. The results of Lin's experiment unfolded like a slow-motion drama. For most of the pairs, there was no change, no miracle. The men drinking vinegar remained as sick as ever. Those gargling seawater only grew weaker. The spicy paste and barley water offered no relief. Day after day, the majority of the sailors continued their painful decline, their bodies failing in that dark, airless sickbay. But then, something extraordinary happened. The 2 sailors given the oranges and lemons began to recover, and they did not just feel a little better. Within a mere 6 days, they were transformed. Their profound exhaustion lifted, replaced by real, usable energy. The blackened, spongy tissue of their gums tightened and regained a healthy pink color. Their old wounds, which had stubbornly refused to heal, finally began to knit themselves back together. They became so robust, so restored to health, that they were assigned a new duty: to care for their former companions who still lay suffering. Imagine the scene: the cured men, once at death's door, now tending to the dying, a living, breathing testament to a power that no one had fully understood. So why did citrus hold this incredible power? The answer lies in a single vital molecule, vitamin C, which is abundant in those fruits. Your body uses vitamin C like a master builder uses a crucial tool to produce collagen. Collagen is the fundamental scaffolding that holds you together. It is the protein that forms your skin, your tendons, your blood vessels, and even the bonds that anchor your teeth in your jaw. Without a steady supply of vitamin C, your body's collagen production grinds to a halt. The scaffolding begins to crumble. This is precisely what scurvy is: a catastrophic collapse of your body's connective tissue. That is why gums bleed and teeth fall out. The tissues that hold them have disintegrated. That is why old wounds reopen. The scar tissue, made of collagen, can no longer maintain its structure. The citrus fruits provided a direct infusion of the very thing the sailors' bodies were desperately missing. The stark, undeniable contrast in that sickbay was the heart of Lin's discovery. On one side, 10 men continued to fade, proving that every other theory was wrong. On the other, 2 men were not just alive, but vibrant, proving that the solution was breathtakingly simple. Lind had not just found a cure, he had, through his careful method, uncovered the very cause of the disease itself, a dietary deficiency. He held in his hands the evidence that could end centuries of suffering, a truth as simple and powerful as a piece of fruit. Yet, unbelievably, this life-saving knowledge would be largely ignored for decades. James Lind held the proof in his hands, a truth so simple it seemed almost absurd. He meticulously documented his experiment and its stunning results, publishing his findings in a book called A Treatise on the Scurvy in 1753. He expected the world to listen, for the British Admiralty to immediately outfit every ship with a supply of lemons and oranges, but the world did not listen. For decades, his life-saving discovery was met with a wall of silence and institutional resistance. The Admiralty, the powerful body governing the Royal Navy, largely ignored his work. Why would such a clear solution be cast aside while men continued to die by the thousands? The reasons were a tangled web of cost, convenience, and stubborn tradition. Supplying fresh citrus fruit for long voyages presented a massive logistical challenge. How do you keep a large stock of fruit from spoiling in the damp, confined hold of a wooden ship? It was far easier and cheaper to simply load up on barrels of salted meat and hardtack, the very foods that caused the problem in the first place. Adding to this inertia was the persistent belief in other, incorrect theories. Many high-ranking naval officers and physicians still clung to the idea that scurvy was a disease of filth and foul air, and that remedies like vinegar or complex elixirs were the answer. Lind's elegant idea that the cure was a missing nutrient was too radical, too simple to be accepted by a medical establishment steeped in old ways. The human cost of this delay was catastrophic. Consider the voyage of Commodore George Anson in the 1740s. He set out with a fleet of 6 ships and nearly 2,000 men. By the end of his journey, more than 1,300 of them had died, the vast majority from scurvy. His flagship, the Centurion, drifted into port with less than 200 men fit for duty, a ghost ship manned by skeletons. Each one of those deaths was a preventable tragedy, a life lost because a proven cure was sitting ignored on a bookshelf. This pattern of unnecessary suffering repeated itself for nearly half a century. It took a different kind of visionary to finally prove the point on a grand scale. Captain James Cook, the famous explorer, was a firm believer in Lind's principles. On his epic voyages of discovery across the Pacific in the 1770s, he insisted on a strict regime of cleanliness and a diet that included anything he could find with anti-scorbutic properties. He loaded his ships with sauerkraut, a fermented cabbage that contained some vitamin C, and a concentrated syrup of oranges and lemons. His results were nothing short of miraculous. On voyages that lasted for years, he did not lose a single man to scurvy. Cook's success provided irrefutable, real-world evidence, yet still the Admiralty hesitated. It was not until 1795, a full 42 years after Lind's treatise was published, that the British Admiralty finally made it mandatory for all naval ships to carry a daily ration of lemon juice for every sailor. The scourge of the seas was defeated not by a new discovery, but by the slow, painful acceptance of an old one. So the mystery of scurvy was solved not by complex science, but through a simple, structured test born of keen observation. James Lind's party-like experiment on the Salisbury gave the world a definitive answer, yet it took nearly half a century and countless unnecessary deaths for that answer to be heeded. This story is a powerful lesson in the tension between discovery and acceptance. Lind proved that empirical evidence, the act of testing ideas against reality, could overturn centuries of medical dogma. But he also revealed how deeply institutions resist change, even when faced with life-saving truth. The real breakthrough was not just the citrus fruit, but the methodical mind that knew how to prove its power. That method would one day lay the groundwork for modern clinical trials and transform our entire understanding of health. We now know that Lind had stumbled upon the concept of vitamins long before the word itself existed. His oranges and lemons were delivering a specific, essential nutrient that the human body cannot produce on its own. This single discovery helped birth the entire field of nutritional science, teaching us that health is not just about fighting germs, but about nourishing the body with fundamental building blocks. The legacy of that naval surgeon echoes every time you drink a glass of orange juice or take a daily multivitamin. His story forces us to ask a profound question. What other simple, elegant solutions to our own complex problems are we overlooking today, blinded by our own set of stubborn traditions or assumptions? Perhaps the next great discovery is not in a high-tech lab, but hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with the curiosity to look. If you know of any other fascinating accidental discoveries, share them in the comments below. And subscribe for more tales of the hidden histories that shape our world.